The first day of school was supposed to be exciting. A fresh start, a chance to grow, to learn, to build friendships. But as she stood at the entrance of the boarding school, gripping the handle of her suitcase tightly, all she felt was fear. Her parents had assured her she would be fine. "You'll make friends in no time," her mother had said, smiling warmly. "You'll love it here," her father had added. But now, as she watched other students laughing in groups, hugging old friends, and moving through the halls as if they belonged, she felt like an outsider. The halls were long and endless, the school rules strict and unfamiliar. The seniors seemed intimidating, the teachers distant. She had always been confident, but here, she felt small, lost, alone. That was when she met her. A girl, a few years older, standing with perfect posture, her uniform neatly pressed, her gaze sharp yet welcoming. She noticed her hesitation, the way she clutched her suitcase as if it was her only lifeline. "You must be new," the girl said, a knowing smile on her lips. She nodded, unsure of what to say. "I'm Naomi," the girl introduced herself. "And you're lucky, because from today I'm your school mother." She blinked in confusion. "School mother?" Naomi chuckled. "You'll learn soon enough. Come, I'll show you around." With that, she took her suitcase and led the way, walking with the confidence of someone who had mastered the system. That was the beginning. At first, Naomi was everything she needed. She showed her the ropes, where to sit in the cafeteria to avoid the worst food, how to avoid the strictest prefects, when to sneak in an afternoon nap without getting caught. She was wise, experienced, and always knew exactly what to say. "Here," Naomi said one evening, handing her a notebook filled with neatly written notes. "These are the key points for tomorrow's test. Trust me, the teacher always repeats the same questions." Her school mother always looked out for her, helped her with assignments, made sure no one bullied her. She was her protector, her guide, her closest friend in an unfamiliar world. And she was grateful. In the evenings, after prep, when the other girls whispered and giggled in their own cliques, she sat beside Naomi, listening to her stories about the school, about the girls who had come and gone, about the unspoken rules that weren't in the student handbook. "Loyalty is everything here," Naomi had said one night, her voice low, secretive. "You watch my back, and I'll watch yours. That's how we survive." She nodded eagerly. She wanted to belong. And with Naomi, she finally did. She trusted her school mother completely. Whatever Naomi said, she believed. Whatever Naomi did, she followed. It felt good to have someone who cared, someone who took her under her wing. She never imagined, even for a second, that this bond would one day become her biggest regret. "Would you like me to continue with the next section?" Smiling face with smiling eyes. At first, life under Naomi's guidance was perfect. She no longer felt like an outsider. She had someone who looked out for her, someone who made sure she never felt alone. Naomi taught her everything she needed to know about surviving in boarding school, the best places to sit during assembly, the teachers who could be bribed with small favors, the prefects who could be avoided with the right words. It was like she had been handed a secret manual to school life, and she felt lucky to have Naomi by her side. But slowly, little things started to change. It began with small requests. "Can you cover for me during roll call?" "Just say I'm in the bathroom," Naomi asked one evening. She hesitated. Roll call was strict. Everyone had to be accounted for. But Naomi looked at her with that same warm smile, the one that had made her feel safe from the first day. "It's nothing," Naomi reassured her. "Just a small favor. You can do that for me, right?" She nodded. Of course she could. Naomi had done so much for her. What was one little favor in return? And so she did it. One favor turned into another. The next week, Naomi asked her to sneak out of prep early. "It's just a few minutes," she said with a smirk. "We'll come back before anyone notices." It felt wrong, but at the same time, thrilling. Breaking a rule with Naomi made her feel included, like she was part of something special. Soon, skipping a few minutes of prep turned into missing entire sessions. Sneaking out to talk turned into sneaking out to meet boys who lingered outside the school fence. Lying about missing assignments turned into helping Naomi copy answers during tests. Each time she hesitated, Naomi would place a hand on her shoulder and whisper, "You trust me, don't you?" And every time she nodded, because Naomi was her school mother, She was supposed to know best. But deep down, something had started to feel wrong. One evening, she overheard a group of senior girls whispering about Naomi. "She's smart," one of them said. "She never does the dirty work herself. She always makes someone else take the risk." She froze. Were they talking about Naomi? Another girl laughed. "And the little one, she follows her around like a shadow. Poor thing. She doesn't even see it." Her stomach twisted. Were they talking about her? She wanted to believe it wasn't true. Naomi wasn't using her. Naomi cared about her. She had to. But the more she thought about it, the more uneasy she became. Naomi never got into trouble. She never got caught. And yet, they had both been skipping prep, sneaking out, bending the rules, but only she ever felt nervous about it. That night, she tried to convince herself that she was overthinking things. Naomi had been there for her when she had no one. Naomi had protected her. But when the next favor came, she felt the hesitation deep in her bones. It was past curfew, and the dormitory was silent except for the occasional rustling of bedsheets as girls shifted in their sleep. Naomi leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need you to go to the common room and bring me something," she said, slipping a small note into her hand. She frowned. "Now? But what if I get caught?" Naomi's smile didn't waver. "You won't. You're quiet, and you're careful. No one will hear you." Her heart pounded. She had never broken curfew before. If she got caught, the punishment would be severe. "I don't know, Naomi," she whispered, her fingers tightening around the note. Naomi's eyes darkened for the briefest moment. "Come on. I've done so much for you," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Or are you just going to leave me hanging?" A knot formed in her throat. Naomi always made it sound so simple. Like there was no choice at all. She swallowed hard and nodded. "Okay." Naomi smiled, patting her cheek. "That's my girl." As she tiptoed out of the dorm, her stomach twisted with unease. She knew this wasn't right. But turning back, saying no, that felt even more impossible. What she didn't know was that this night would change everything, and that Naomi had no intention of protecting her when things went wrong. The night was cold, and the silence of the dormitory made her heart pound even louder in her chest. Every creak of the floor beneath her feet sent a wave of fear through her body as she moved toward the common room. She had never done something like this before, sneaking out after curfew, breaking a major school rule. But Naomi had asked her to do it, and she had never said no to Naomi. She held the note tightly in her palm, feeling the sweat from her nervous fingers dampen the paper. Naomi had told her exactly where to go, exactly what to do. "Just pick up the small envelope from behind the old bookshelf," she had whispered. "No one will even notice you were there." She didn't know what was in the envelope, and she didn't ask. Naomi never liked questions. As she reached the common room, she carefully pushed the door open, stepping inside. The dim moonlight from the window cast eerie shadows across the furniture. Holding her breath, she moved toward the bookshelf, heart hammering in her ears. Her fingers searched behind the old wooden shelf, feeling around until they found a thin, crumpled envelope. She grabbed it, shoving it into the pocket of her nightgown. Just as she turned to leave, a noise outside froze her in place. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, deliberate. Her stomach dropped. Someone was coming. She had to get out now. With trembling hands, she slipped toward the door, her pulse racing. The footsteps grew louder, echoing in the hallway. If she got caught, there would be no explaining this. No excuses. No second chances. Just as she reached for the doorknob, she heard a voice. "Who's there?" Her entire body locked up in fear. It was a prefect. Her mind raced. If they saw her, they'd drag her straight to the principal's office. What would she say? That Naomi had sent her? That she was just following orders? No one would believe her. She would take the fall alone. Just like that, the realization hit her like a slap to the face. Naomi never did anything herself. Naomi never took risks. Naomi always had someone else do the dangerous work. And this time it was her. The panic gave her the strength to move. She spun on her heel, slipping out through the back of the common room, pressing herself against the wall as the prefect entered. She held her breath. Seconds stretched into eternity. Finally, after what felt like forever, the prefect sighed and walked away. She exhaled, her hands shaking as she hurried back to the dormitory, slipping under the covers just as the first morning bell rang. She had barely slept when Naomi came to her bedside, smiling as if nothing had happened. "Did you get it?" She nodded weakly, handing her the envelope. Naomi took it without hesitation, stuffing it into her own bag. She didn't even check if she had gotten the right one. "What was in it?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Naomi's smile didn't waver. "Nothing you need to worry about." Something inside her twisted. That was the moment she knew she wasn't Naomi's little sister. She was Naomi's pawn. Over the next few weeks, things only got worse. The small favors turned into bigger, more dangerous ones. Naomi asked her to skip class to deliver notes to people she didn't know. She was pressured into sneaking food from the dining hall, into lying to teachers to cover for Naomi's absences. One afternoon, Naomi handed her a phone, something students weren't even allowed to have. "Take this to the girl in the second-year dormitory," Naomi instructed. Her hands trembled as she held the device. "If we get caught with this." "You won't." Naomi's voice was firm. "Just go. And don't ask questions." She hesitated, but in the end, she did as she was told. She always did. Until one day, Naomi asked for something she couldn't do. It was after prep, and the dormitory was quiet. Naomi pulled her aside, her grip on her wrist tighter than usual. "I need you to take the blame for something," Naomi whispered. She blinked, confusion swirling in her mind. "What?" Naomi sighed. "Someone found a stolen exam paper in our room. The principal is investigating. If they ask, just say it was yours." Her breath caught in her throat. "Naomi, I didn't." "I know," Naomi said, her voice soothing. "But it's just one little lie. You'll get a minor punishment, maybe some extra chores. But me? If they think I did it, I could get expelled." A cold realization settled over her. Naomi wasn't asking. She was demanding. And for the first time, she saw Naomi for what she truly was. Manipulative, controlling, selfish. This wasn't about loyalty. It never had been. She had been blinded by trust, convinced that Naomi was her protector. But Naomi was only protecting herself. For the first time since arriving at the school, she said, "No." Naomi's expression hardened instantly. The fake warmth, the sisterly affection, it all vanished in an instant. "Excuse me." "I said no," she repeated, standing her ground. "I won't do it." Naomi stared at her for a long moment before her lips curled into a slow, dangerous smile. "Fine," she said quietly, but the way she said it sent a shiver down her spine. She had just made an enemy, and she had no idea how much she was about to pay for it. The silence between them was heavier than ever. Since the moment she had refused to take the blame for Naomi, something had changed. Naomi didn't yell, didn't threaten. She simply smiled and said, "Fine." But that word, the way it was said, sent an uneasy feeling through her chest. It was the calm before the storm. The next morning, everything fell off. The dormitory, once a place of quiet whispers and soft giggles, now felt suffocating. She could feel the stares, the hushed conversations happening around her, the way the girls seemed to be looking at her differently. At first, she told herself it was nothing. Maybe she was imagining it. Then, as she made her way to breakfast, a girl she barely knew sneered as she passed. "I didn't know you were a cheat," the girl muttered under her breath. She froze, her stomach twisted. "What?" The girl didn't stop walking. "Everyone knows it was you who stole the exam paper." Her breath caught in her throat. No, this wasn't happening. She rushed to the dining hall, searching for Naomi. She had to fix this. Naomi knew the truth. Naomi had to tell them. She found her sitting with her usual group, laughing, looking as carefree as ever. But when Naomi's eyes met hers, something in them flickered, triumph. And in that moment, she understood, Naomi had turned the entire school against her. This was her punishment for saying no. She wanted to scream, to demand why, to beg Naomi to tell the truth. But she knew it wouldn't work. Naomi was too smart, too careful. Instead, she forced herself to sit down at the table next to hers, her hands trembling. The whispers only got louder. "Who would have thought? I heard she's been cheating for months. They said she tried to blame Naomi, but everyone knows Naomi would never do something like that." Tears burned at the back of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had to talk to the principal. She had to tell the truth. She stood in the principal's office, fists clenched at her sides. "I didn't do it," she said, voice firm but desperate. "I swear, I had nothing to do with that stolen exam paper." The principal, an older woman with piercing eyes, studied her. "Then why are so many students saying otherwise?" She swallowed hard. "Because Naomi told them to." For the first time, the principal's expression shifted. "Naomi!" "Yes," she nodded quickly. "She was the one who told me about the stolen paper in the first place. She wanted me to take the blame for her. And when I refused, she turned everyone against me." The principal sighed, removing her glasses. "That's a serious accusation." "I know," she said, voice breaking. "But it's the truth." The principal didn't respond right away. Then she stood, walking toward the door. "Wait here." She did as she was told, heart pounding. She had no idea what was going to happen next. Minutes later, Naomi walked in, her face the picture of innocence. "You wanted to see me, ma'am?" "Yes," the principal said. "I want to talk to both of you." Naomi turned to her, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. The principal cleared her throat. "She claims you framed her for stealing the exam paper." "Is that true?" Naomi gasped, placing a hand on her chest, as if she was offended by the accusation. "Framed her? Ma'am, I don't understand where this is coming from. I only told the truth about what I knew." She clenched her fists. "That's a lie." Naomi looked at her with wide, hurt eyes. "I'm sorry, but I don't know why you're blaming me. Maybe you're scared, but if you did something wrong, you need to take responsibility." Tears welled up in her eyes. She had lost. Naomi had won. The principal sighed. "This is difficult, but for now, you will serve detention for the next 2 weeks. This is not an expulsion-worthy offense, but we cannot ignore it either." Her heart shattered. "That's not fair. I didn't do anything." Naomi placed a hand on her shoulder, fake sympathy written all over her face. "It's okay," she said softly. "We all make mistakes." That was the moment she broke. Shoving Naomi's hand off, she stepped back, shaking her head. You're evil." Naomi just smiled. She stormed out of the office, ignoring the whispers that followed her down the hallway. For the next few weeks, she was alone. No one talked to her. No one sat with her. Even the juniors, the ones who used to look up to her, avoided her. She had lost everything. And Naomi continued living her life as if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't just destroyed someone's reputation for fun. But something was different now. Now, she saw Naomi for who she truly was. Now she knew better. And she promised herself she would never let anyone like Naomi control her again. Naomi may have won this battle, but this wasn't over. One day the truth would come out. And when it did, Naomi wouldn't be smiling anymore.